Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti nur Janah. In this session, I will explain about assessing reading, assessing writing, assessing grammar, assessing speaking, and the last is assessing listening. Number one is assessing reading. Reading is a dynamic process in which the reader interacts with the text contracts meaning. Alderson argues that we should focus our assessment of reading on the target skill we want our students to develop. There are 6 sub-skill reading assessment. Number one is reading quickly to skim for keys, scan for specific detail, and establish overall organization of the text. Number two is reading carefully for main idea, supporting details, author argument and purpose relationship of paragraph, and fact versus opinion. Number three is drawing both started impact content. Number four is understanding at the sentence level like lexis, syntax, cohesive marker. Number five is understanding in intersentence level like anaphoric or cetaphoric reference. Number 6 is understanding component of nonlinear text. There are 5 purposes for reading assessment. Number 1 is reading proficiency assessment. Number 2 is assessment of classroom learning. Number 3 is assessment for learning. And number 4 is assessment for curricular effectiveness. Number 5 is assessment for reach purpose. Sally and Kathy state some that this text reading assessment there are 8. Number 1 is yes or no question. Number 2 is true or false question. Number 3 is matching. Number 4 is WH question, and number 5 is open-ended question. Number 6 is multiple choice question. Number 7 is keyword text. Number 8 is proofreading. In the next discussion is assessing grammar. In assessing grammar, I will explain about designing assessment tests of grammar. Number 1 is select response. There are 3 kinds of select response. A is multiple choice test. The most common selected response test present a blank or underlined words, a sentence, and the test taker must choose the correct response from the options are given. B is discrimination test, the test that asks the test taker to attend to input that can be either language or non-language to respond in the form of choice between or among contrast or opposite, such as true or false test. C is noticing test or consciousness raising test. Test takers are asked to indicate that they have identified a specific features in the language sample. Number 2 kind of designing assessment is limited production. There are 2 kinds in limited production, that is gap filling test. The language is presented in the form of sentence, dialogue, or passage in which a number of words are deleted. B is short answer test. The input is presented in the form of question following reading passage or oral or visual stimulus. Number 3 in designing assessment of grammar is extended production. There are 2 kinds, in the extended production. A is information gap test. Present the input in terms of incomplete information. This is the one test taker is given half or some the information and another test taker is given complete theory information. B is role play or simulator test. The input present test taker with a language or non-language. From that test them to take a role or stimulate a situation to solve a problem, make decision, or perform some transaction collaboratively. Next discussion is assessing writing. Writing assessment refers to an area of study that contains theory and practice that guide of the evaluation of writer performance or potential through a writing test. Writing assessment can be considered a combination of scholarship from composition studies and measurement theory within educational assessment. Genre of writing is academic writing, like essay, composition, journal, and thesis. Number 2 is job-related writing, like memo, message, report, and announcement. Number 3 is personal writing, like letter, email, greeting card, diary, and note. Types of classroom writing performers, there is 5. Number 1 is imitative or writing down. Number 2 is intensive. Number 3 is self-writing. Number 4 is displaying writing. Number 5 is real writing. Designing tests in writing assessment, there are 2. Number 1 is imitative writing. In the imitative writing, there are 2 kinds. Number 1 is test in handwriting, letter, words, and functional. A is copying. The test taker read copy the following words in the space given. B is listening, close selection test. Test taker here write the missing words in each blank. Below the story is a list words to choose from. C is picture cut test. Familiar pictures are displayed and test taker are told to writer the word that the picture represents. Number 2 is in the imitative writing is spelling test and detecting phonemes, grammar and correspondence. Number 1 in the spelling test and detecting phoneme is spelling test. Number 2 is picture cut test. Number 3 is multiple choice techniques. Number 4 is matching phonetics symbol. Next discussion is assessing speaking. Basic type of speaking is imitative and intensive. Imitative, it is a simple, the ability to parrot back a word or phrase or a sentence. Intensive, it is the product of short stretches of oral language. Example include directed response test, reading aloud, sentence and dialect completion, and limited picture cast test. Next is assessment imitative. This assessment focuses on the phonetic levels or of oral production, not meaning, and requires listening just for the prompt. There are four kinds in intensive assessment. Number 1 is word repetition. Number 2 is Pearson Junior English test. version is a commercial use oral products test that heavily utilizes imitation tests. The assessment can be taken over phone or at the designated computer testing center. Number three is picture cut tests are one of the most popular ways to elicit oral language performance across proficiency levels. The intensive aspect of speaking requires test taker to produce short stretches of language. Number four is reading aloud test. The test taker's oral product in is controlled. The student predicts stress, intonation, and others oral skill are assessed. And the last discussion about assessing listening. It is all effective tests. Designing appropriate assessment tests in listening begin with the specification of objectives or criteria. Those objectives might be classified in the terms of several types of listening performance. Number one is recognize speech sound and hold the temporary imprint of the term in short-term memory. Number two is simultaneously determine the type of speech event that is being processed and attend to its context and the context of message. Number three is use linguistic decoding skill or background schemata to bring a plausible interpretation to the message and assign a literal and intended meaning to the utterance. Each of these stages represents a potential assessment objective. A. Comprehending of surface structures elements such as phonemes, formation, or a grammatical category. B is understanding of pragmatic content. C is determining meaning of auditory input. D is developing the guess a global or comprehensive understanding. I feel enough my explanation. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.